Hi friends, it's Bridget. I love this basket so much that I made this sweet little collapsible basket in another video, which I will link. I wanted to make another basket to see if I could add some stiffness to it. I absolutely love this. It is something I'm going to make more of for sure, but I want to try making a basket that actually just has a little more firmness. So in order to do that, I'm going to use some of my Decovil Light as a stiffener. This is a leathery kind of stabilizer. I use it in a lot of my bag making, so I wanted to see how it would be in this application. I am going to do my process of the steam a seam and placing the fabrics on there. I'm going to cut my fabrics into strips like I did before. I'm going to fast forward all of that and I'll get that prepared. And then I found this red in my stash. I don't know where this is from. I have a lot of wonderful people that just leave me things out on my porch. And so I'm really lucky to have, one would say too much fabric, but that can never be the case in my opinion. And I also had a dear friend who gave me so many isocord. It's 40 weight isocord. And I was like, oh, look at this. It's a variegated red tones, white tones. So I'm going to give this thread, I don't know where else I would use it. So I'm going to give it a shot here and see how that turns out and use that in the quilting process, because after I make my piece of fabric, I am going to take my beautiful organza again and put it on top before I make the basket. So let me get all that done, and then we will put together the basket with the Decovil Light, and I'll show you how I do that. And we'll see if we like it better. I think I like both. So both are going to be great for different uses. So thanks for joining me, and let's get started cutting some fabric and making some scrappy fun. I am now going to iron my pieces onto my steam-a-seam. I did run into a bit of a problem here, so I don't know how I'm going to deal with this, but this actual glue came off. I don't know, you know, it was a defective piece of steam-a-seam, so that's a bummer. I'm just going to try to keep that part together there. It's probably from here, this triangle up here. So I am going to go ahead and iron what I can and see how I can solve this problem. So let me iron this up. I'm going to press a piece of my red. This is just a medium weight cotton. I'm going to press this to use it as a back cloth to my Scrappy steam-a-seam piece. And this looks like it's been creased for quite a while. I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to take it and see if I can cut a piece. I'm just going to use this as my template. So I'm just going to cut this to get myself a piece, because the basket is going to be the size of my steam-a-seam sheet is what I am thinking. And this is another experiment. I just want to be able to see how it performs with the Decovil. Actually, that's a nice strap. It's a nice scrap, so I'm adding it to my scrap pile. Okay, set that aside. Now I want to get my piece of steam-a-seamed scrap, but I'm not really sure exactly what's going on here, because this was stuck to the... All right, well, that's a bummer, because I don't want that piece on my... That corner came off, so I don't want that on my iron, or do I want it in my project? So now I'm up against another problem here. So I am going to peel this back. I don't have a lot of experience with steam-a-seam, but this is the first time this has happened. But I want to get this out of here. And before I cut, because the steam-a-seam is right here, I can see it. I'm not sure if you can, but it stayed on the sheet and it didn't come off, so goodbye to that. I'm going to set it aside because you never know, but that's just going to cause me a problem, I can tell. Okay, so the rest seems to be fine. Thank goodness for that. All righty. I'm just going to rip that off too, because it's not behaving how I want it to. All right. So I still got that corner up there now. And this piece is no good either. It's on there. I don't want that on there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take this and cut this little corner off. And now I have to try to remedy this situation. So I think I'm just going to take some other pieces and get them down on here. Though I could... Actually, I have my other steam-a-seam pieces. This is the red bundle, by the way, that I'm working with. And I think I'm going to just actually take some of these pieces and cut them. But I am going to use my paper cutter now, my rotary cutter, for see if I can come up with solving a problem for this, because this has steam on it already. So let me see if I can come up with a little bit of a solution for this. I was ultra happy with that process. I gotta see if I can get this back on here to save for another project. It's probably best just to cut smaller pieces as I go, certainly when I'm using them as little boo-boo bandages. So I'm gonna go back ahead, and you know, that really proved to be a very helpful, having the steam little squares from my other project was awesome. So now I'm going to just press that down. So now I have my piece of fabric. Hallelujah. It's great when a mistake becomes a lesson. Perfect. I have my iron here, my steam iron, so I'm going to now press this with the steam, because the steam helps break down the glue on the steam so that hopefully going through the sewing machine, I will have less of a sticking problem with my needle, is my hope. Anytime you use some sort of glue, whether it's Heat and Bond Light, Heat and Bond, Steam Seam apparently, it doesn't always like the glue. If they could figure that out for us, we'd be in heaven. So, but hopefully we can figure something out here today. And now I'm going to take it and do it from the other side as well. And now I'm going to cut a piece for my organza. So I'm going to take this and just put it right over it. And I'm just going to cut a piece off. There we go. I think I might cut that down a little bit. I also purchased some of these 5 super nonstick needles. It's the Schmetz brand, and it's a Universal 9014. So I'm hoping that these nonstick needles, people recommended them, so I'm going to give it a shot. But right now, I'm actually going to cut my organza down so that I can get it right where I want it. Close enough. I'll be trimming this up again after I quilt it. There we are. Okay. And I'm just going to take some of my Wonder clips and clip it. I'm not worrying about pinning it. I'm happy with these Wonder clips, and I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and do the quilting and have some fun with that. And I'm going to use my Isocord variegated thread and my new needles. And I will come back and we'll take a look at what I have. This came out beautiful. I love it. I did just a quilting with that isocord variegated thread. It came out great. So now, I mean, just look at it. I just can't stop looking at it. I love the organza on top of the fabrics now. It's one of my favorite things. I might have to start getting some other organzas. So now I need to create a template for my Decovil Light. For the Decovil, I need it to be smaller because I want to be able to sew without the Decovil. So I am going to take this and get a pencil and get my ruler. So I am just going to cut this sheet down by 1/2 inch on all sides. And I can box my corners on this. So I want to box my corners. So I want this to be 2.5 by 2.5. So I'm going to do the pattern for Decovil at 2. Okay. So this is going to go in here. This is going to be my Decovil piece. So I'm going to cut that now. Now I have my Decovil ironed down, and it does say Decovil that you want it to sit for about 1/2 hour. I've always done that with my bag making, so that's helpful too. So now what I want to do is I want to cut my squares out, and this is roughly 1/2 inch. I mean, it's not exact, so I'm just going to do the same here. So now I need to create a lining for this little basket. So I'm just going to get a piece. I can do it this way so I can see it better. There we go. And I am going to cut a piece bigger, and I'll show you why in a minute. So there is my piece, and I am actually going to give that a little press to get it and this is great because I am cutting this larger, but I will throw this excess fabric in the pile of my red scrap. So I don't feel like I'm wasting it, but this is just an easier way to do this lining. And I'll show you why. So I'm just going to snip this so I know exactly where the 1/2 point is. 1, 2. And now I'm just going to cut right down the center. Okay. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance right down here, but I'm going to leave a gap in the middle. So there's my lining. I have it nice and pressed. I can get my hand in there to turn. And so now what I want to do is just take this. This is my Decovil Light on the back. And I'm going to use this as a pattern. I'm going to try roughly to get that in the center, the gap. And there we go. And now I am going to just simply cut my lining. So now it's time to put this together, and I'm going to marry up my sides. I'm going to clip them, and I am going to take them to my sewing machine, and I am going to use just about 1/8 of an inch away from the Decovil as my seam allowance. And I will go ahead and do that and come back. So I sewed all the corners. Now I'm going to turn it. You can already see it coming together. It's got a lot more body. I can feel it already. Okay. And if some of the Decovil is coming up, you can just get in there and iron it a little bit. But mine is pretty adhered down. Poke out your corners. Oh, I love it already. Okay, so now I just have to do the same with my lining. I'll go ahead and do that and come back. I went ahead and sewed my lining the same way with the same seam allowance, just about 1/4 of an inch. I double checked and measured. I'm just trimming up. And now I just want to drop this in. So basically it's right sides together. So I'm dropping this in here. And I'm going to clip the edges with my Wonder Clips. And I'm pressing these to either side. I mean, the Decovil is making it a little stiff right now, but I wanted it to be a little stiff. So now I'm just pressing one seam allowance one way and one seam with having those butt up in the center here. I'm going to use 1/4 inch. I don't need to butt it up right here. I'm just going to give myself a good 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8, and I'm going to sew from this side using my Decovil Light and my raw edge as my seam guide. And I'm going to sew it this way so that it's easy to sew in my sewing machine. I finished sewing all the way around. And now I can stick my hand through, and it'll be a little feisty, I'm sure, but I'm going to work this so it comes out the other side. All right. Oh, goodness. Super duper cute. So I'm pushing my hand in here. Could have given myself a little more room. Oh my goodness. Okay, how cute. I'm already in love with it. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to close this gap. You could do a blind ladder stitch right there by hand, but for me, I'm going to have things in this all the time. So let me actually give that a little tiny press right there. So that is sewn closed. And now I'm just going to try to maneuver this so it is, do some finger pressing here. And I'm just going to get some pressing done here. And now I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch from the inside. I was careful to make sure to press from the inside because I didn't want to burn my organza. Oh, this is going to be the cutest little tray bag. Okay, so now I'm just going to go and top stitch and I'll be right back. I'm going to do it from the inside. And now I have my cute little basket here. I'm just going to give it a press inside. I did my top stitching. And I am going to, I think I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm just going to do a little bit of a stitch right down here just to keep it formed. I went ahead and did some stitching down here at these corners. I didn't want to do it up at the top because I have a lot of bulk up there. So I just did it down at the bottom. And I can go ahead and take my press cloth and just give it a good press on the side seams like this because I don't want to hurt my organza. I love how this little basket came out. It's like a little tray size basket. I can put all my sewing notions in there. The sewing needles proved to be very helpful, as well as I did steam. So both of those things that I did helped out in the sewing process and in the quilting process. I'm in love with how these are coming out. They're really sweet. I think these could be useful in many other applications as far as sewing and, you know, just even maybe in your office, in your kitchen, just to hold things that are always just flying around. As in my, world, I have things all over my table all the time, and how nice is it to just have a sweet little tray, and from the side it's adorable too. Now that I've done both, I love them both. I just feel like this is just really sweet still, so I think I'm going to make a few more of each and have them for different applications. I do think that being able to collapse these into your knitting bag or crochet bag, it's a little softer. It's just a preference. I definitely would try making some of each and see which you prefer. But again, just so much fun doing the crazy scrappy fabric and the organza. I love the ivory color here because I think whatever you're using, this is more shades of white, this is more shades of red, but I think it lets whatever fiber you're using shine through. It doesn't take away from it, whereas, possibly a color would. Thanks for joining me while I made another basket using Decovil Light and giving it more substance. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep creating. Have fun out there. Bye.